Good morning, everybody out there in Mathland. Today, for third grade, we will be using our ruler again to measure different things for length. But this time, the difference will be that instead of going to a ½ inch, I'm going to go to an even more specific measurement of a ½ inch. Okay, so here is the ruler. I'm using the paper version of the ruler, which I emailed to all parents so they can get one to you. Before I get started, I want to show you what quarter measurements are. If this is the 0 line and this is 1, we knew that half is halfway in between them. Quarter lines are these guys right here. The next longest line after the ½ inch. This would be 1/4, and this would be 3/4, because this is technically 2/4 as an equivalent fraction. So that's what we're going to be practicing today on how to use those measurements. I'm going to get closer to my camera right here. Oops, you cannot see that. There we go. So look at what my 1/4 inch and what my 3/4 inch are, so that you can put that in your paper ruler if you can. Okay, so this is page 668, by the way. Okay, so you know how to use a ruler to measure lengths to the nearest ½ inch because we did that yesterday. You can also use that same ruler to measure lengths to the nearest ½ inch. So as shown in my paper ruler, but I'm going to show you again. If this is 0, this is 1, you know that this is the half. The lines in between the 0 and the halves, and the whole numbers, this is 1/4 and this is 3/4, okay? Now, when you do that same thing, but they're past the whole number 1, you know that the middle line is 1.5. Well, this one is going to be 1.25, and this is going to be 1 3/4, okay? So, for example, they're going to tell you to measure the length of each string to the nearest ½ inch. The string is 7/4 of an inch long. You can also represent it as 1 whole and 1/4, 1 whole inch and 3/4 inches, or 1 3/4. Let me measure that using the ruler. So yesterday, some kids were measuring to the end of the ruler. No, you see this over here stands for nothing. It shouldn't even exist. You have to start from the 0. So as you can see from this ruler, this would be a ½ here. This would be 1.5 here, but it ends here. That's 1 3/4. That's why this measurement is 1 3/4 right there. So when you have one that ends not exactly at the line, it ends a little bit before it, think of what it's closest to. Is this closer to a whole inch, or is it closer to 1 1/4? Look, there's only this little amount of space before you reach 1 1/4. So if you're going to estimate the measurement of that particular string, I would say that's 1 1/4, not 1 whole inch. See, it goes past it almost to 1 1/4. So when you're estimating those measurements, make sure you're looking at that. Now, here's another example. They're going to make you build line plots out of these, okay? So measure the length of each line to the nearest ½ inch, then record each length on the line plot. So my title here is string lengths, actually. No, they're just lines, they're not strings. So line lengths. Let's see what number they left out here. If this is 3/4, this is a 1 1/4. That means a whole inch is right here. And if this is 1 1/4, 1 2/4, and this is 1 3/4, okay? Because now we're going to ½ inches. Let's measure the first one. So the first one, I started my 0 line right here. It looks like it goes right up to 3/4 right there. So this first one's 3/4. I'm going to eliminate this so that you don't think it's a 1 3/4. Next one, I'm going to put my paper ruler right here. Match it up to my 0 line. It looks like it goes to right here. This is 1 1/4. So 1 1/4. Let's do the next one. It looks like this one goes to 1 1/2. And this one right here, it gets really close. So it goes past the 1 1/2, so it's not 1 1/2. It's really close to this guy right here, which is 1 3/4. So how do I make line plots for these guys, here's how I do it. 3/4, that would be right here. 1 1/4, that would be right here. 1 1/2, that's here because that's equivalent to 1 2/4, and 1 3/4 right there. Okay, now I got to measure these 3 lines right here and add them to the line plot that I have up here. I'm gonna start right here. Match it up to my 0 line, not to the end of my ruler, but at the 0 line. This is approximately 1 1/4. See, 1 1/4. That's where it stops. So 1 1/4 for this friend right here. This one, match them up. My 0 line to the end, it's 1 1/2. And then this guy, match them up. Looks like it's 1 3/4. No, I'm sorry, not 1 3/4, just 3/4. So now I take these measurements and I put them up here. So 1 1/4, that's another X here. 1 1/2, that's another X here. And 3/4, that's back here. And that's what it will look like now. Okay, go to the next page. Thank you, here we go. Measure the length of each line to the nearest 1/4 inch and record each length on the line plot. So once again, this is line lengths. Okay, let's see what the missing measurements are here. Okay, 2/4, 3/4 is a whole inch. 1 1/4, 1 2/4, 1 3/4, and 2. Okay, so let's measure. Looks like this one goes to 3/4. This next one goes to 1 1/4. This next one goes to 3/4. This next one goes to 1 3/4. This one goes to closer to 3/4. Estimation right there. And this one is 2 inches. All right, let's start recording them. I have 1 2 3 X's that'll go to 3/4. So 1 2 3. This one goes to 1 1/4 and 1 3/4. How might the scale change if 2 lines below are recorded on the line plot? Well, there's a big guy. This guy goes to 2 3/4. Look at this. 2 3/4, which is with this line right here. So that means that I would have to keep going this way, adding measurements. And if this one's only 1/4, because it's very tiny, then I would have need another measurement over here. That's how the line plot would have changed. It would have had to add stuff here and add stuff to this side. Measure the length of each eraser to the nearest 1/4 inch, then record each length on the line plot. So they told us these are erasers. So this is eraser lengths, okay? I'm going to, before I start putting numbers here, I'm actually,